We unite!
The year is 2522 of the Imperial calendar. The armies of the Empire march from victory to victory. The poor see more wealth than their descendants had in their entire lifetimes. The colleges of magic thrive like never before, and the military institutions of the Empire continue to prosper under the leadership of the Emperor Karl Franz. However, with rumors reaching the Imperial court that vast northern armies are mustering near the realm of chaos, the Empire's darkest hour is surely yet to come. The Empire's very birth was forged in battle, when the legendary warrior Sigmar Heldenhammer united the primitive tribes of humans in an effort to face off the hordes of orcs and goblins that were ravaging the lands. In the terrible battle of Blackfire Pass, men fought orcs in a battle for the rich lands that would resound for thousands of years and shape the destiny of mankind for years to come. The triumph of Sigmar and the human tribes in that bloody battle was the culmination of Sigmar's campaign to cleanse the lands of the Empire of orcs and goblins. This battle saw the power of the greenskin races broken in the lands of men, and drove them into the Badlands, their current domain. After this event, the chieftains of the different tribes realized that humanity was stronger united rather than divided. Shortly after, Sigmar Heldenhammer was crowned the first emperor of the newly founded Empire of Man, the greatest nation of the Old World. This moment marks the start of the Imperial calendar and occurred in the year 1. Since that moment, the Empire of Man has crowned many different emperors throughout history. From people like Mandred Skavenslayer, who united the Empire against the hordes of Skaven that arose from underneath the sewers and tunnels of cities and villages alike, to Dieter IV, a man who was easily swayed by gold and coin, granting Marienburg its independence. There are plenty of men who led the Empire into either glory or near ruin, but there is not a better statesman the Empire has seen in decades than Karl Franz. Karl Franz, also known as Karl Franz Holzwig, was the son of Luitpold von Holzwig, his predecessor to the throne of emperor. Shortly after Luitpold died, Karl Franz was summoned to Bretonnia by King Lewin Leonker, heralded by a strange ethereal knight of green shade. Despite fearing that his political rivals within the empire would consider him a vassal of Bretonnia, Karl Franz would travel with a small retinue of halberdiers and Reichsguard to meet the Bretonnian king. When he arrived at the Axbite Pass, they were attacked by a rampaging army of greenskins. Together, fighting back to back, Lewin and Karl would fight off the greenskins, slaying droves of them with sword and shield. After the battle, Lewin would share with Karl the vision granted to him by the Lady of the Lake. He told Karl that the future ahead was dark, and that they would need to be stalwart against the hordes of chaos and mutants that would inevitably come from the blighted lands of chaos. King Lewin told Karl Franz that he saw no future that the Empire would survive without his leadership. Karl Franz initially refused the offer. He saw the burden of power that was laid upon his father, and didn't want to take it upon himself. But after realizing that the future of his people relied on him, Karl would return to Altdorf, and following the next election of emperor, the Elector Counts voted Karl Franz, Prince of Altdorf, and Elector Count of Reichland, in position of Emperor. Karl Franz was elected to the Imperial title in 2502 IC. Upon election, it became clear to Karl that he had been thrust into a difficult situation. The Elector Counts bickered amongst one another. The northern provinces were suffering constant Norscan raids, and towns and villages all across the Empire were being sacked and razed by braying beastmen and the brutish orcs. Karl Franz decided that a show of military force could only strengthen his position as the new emperor. And so he began a military campaign to fortify and consolidate the lands of the Empire. He began to march northwards at the head of a powerful army. With each passing day, the situation grew more and more dire in the north. Norscan raiders began to storm the towns and settlements on the coast of the Sea of Claws. The increase in attacks and numbers of Chaos worshippers was the effect of the winds of magic blowing strong, and the realm of Chaos slowly expanding south. Theodric Gausser, Elector Count of Nordland, was barely holding back the tide. Most of the time, when the armies of the Empire arrived, the Chaos Marauders had already slaughtered all in their path, and carried off their livestock and womenfolk. There was no way of telling where the next Marauder attack would come from. When Karl Franz arrived, he brought with him powerful wizards. Their ability to predict the future by reading the heavens would prove to be deadly for the next wave of Norscan raiders. When they finally attacked, their ships were met by devastating fire from cannons, handgunners, crossbowmen, and Hellstorm batteries. Under a barrage of fire and powerful storms that were also summoned by the wizards, hundreds of Norscan warriors were dragged to the bottom of the sea, and those who survived were swiftly cut down by the disciplined ranks of Empire soldiers.
All you survey are loyal to me, so I advise caution with your next word.
Despite being well rated as a governor in general, Karl Franz has no shortage of political rivals that range from city officials to fanatical religious leaders and feudal lords. Many of these believe that they might benefit were he to be removed from the throne, and all are jockeying for power and position at court. Karl Franz sits in the center of a complex web of intrigue, where every leader has its own petty jealousies, unspoken ambitions, and entrenched rivalries. It is a cutthroat world through which only the most astute statesman can hope to navigate unscathed. With the help of key warriors and advisors, he has steered the Empire out of many dangers. The current stability and strength of the Empire owes much to his ability to negotiate the treacherous political webs that hold the Empire together. Provincial rulers who were at war with their neighbors only a few years ago now stand together shoulder to shoulder under the Emperor's banner. As a brilliant statesman, Karl Franz would politically maneuver himself in the courts as a charismatic leader and a powerful character renowned across the old world. In the field of battle, Karl Franz is acclaimed as a military innovator and a valiant general, frequently taking personal command of his troops. He is a commander who would lead his troops into battle on the front lines, shouting orders and displaying an aura of confidence and courage that would inspire them to keep fighting. In battle, he wields his mighty weapon, Gal Maraz, the fabled magical warhammer used by Sigmar himself, and one of the most potent magical weapons ever crafted by the dwarves in the days when their power was at its height. Elector Counts prize Imperial griffins above all other mounts, and the Emperor, Karl Franz, is no exception. he rides atop Deathclaw, his griffin mount of many years, that he raised himself since it was a mere egg. A unique connection exists between beast and master, one forged in countless battles. Despite being noble beasts, a griffin can be deadly in combat, striking with swift and precise grace. Deathclaw is reputed to be the mightiest Imperial griffin to have ever lived. On the legendary field of blood battle, it was the courage of the Emperor's own heroics that steadied the Imperial line against the thunderous charge of Wa Spleenripper. Halberdier regiment stood their ground and held the line against the primal fury of the orcs, their weapons capable of smashing through heavy armor. In the year 2517, Karl Franz marched again to battle. This time, his objective was to kill a goblin shaman named Rachnik. The shaman had managed to rally a horde of forest goblins and spiders to his banner, and was pillaging across the province of Reichland. If the Emperor failed to protect his own province, his political opponents would call into question his ability to protect the whole empire. Seeking to strike at the heart of the goblin territory, the Emperor gathered the armies of Reichland and marched towards Bloodpine Woods. Columns of state troops marched to the steady beat of drums, disciplined ranks of soldiers and cavalry approaching the edge of the forest. Before long, the Spider-Claw tribe attacked from the woods with vastly superior numbers, but the men of the Empire held the line. Wave after wave of greenskins continued to emerge from the trees. With the steadying shouts of Reichland captains, the heroic efforts of the troops, and aided by a timely cavalry charge by the Reichsguard, the Empire managed to drive back the greenskins. However, when the goblin shaman Rachnik emerged, he managed to wound Karl Franz with a bolt of green sorcery. The soldiers' cheers of celebrations were cut short. Luckily for the Emperor, Deathclaw viciously attacked and killed any goblins that came too close. The mighty griffin defended the wounded Karl Franz for 3 hours, until the Reichsguard knights arrived to regroup with their leader. When Karl Franz recovered, he fought through the pain and resumed fighting. Deathclaw killed the shaman with a quick sweep of his talons, while Karl Franz leapt from the saddle to fight amidst the goblins. The hearts of the men of the Empire lifted at the sight of their leader, fighting like a warrior god. All who witnessed his ferocity and ability claimed it was a feat worthy of Sigmar himself.
I am Karl Franz, and I was born into this world, just like you. A world of unceasing war and endless terrors, but with a nation of men at its heart, a bastion of hope and courage. The Empire. Led by the craven, torn apart by the greedy, weakened and exposed, forever on the defense. But no longer. Now, we unite to purge the evil that dare confront us. Follow me, and we will banish this darkness! I swear this as your Emperor.
The Emperor would once again take up arms at the request of Marius Leitdorf, Elector Count of Averland, to help reinforce his armies against the onslaught of a greenskin invasion. Dwarf rangers patrolling the foothills of Blackfire Pass had warned the Count of a greenskin army, in numbers not seen since the time of Sigmar, making its way around the World's Edge Mountains from the west and heading directly towards Averland. With the armies of Averland being too poorly trained and equipped to fight such a massive horde alone, the Emperor marched, leading his army west. During the massive battle, Marius Leitdorf was slain by the Orcs' chieftain, but he was avenged when Karl Franz found the strength to pulp the greenskin's skull with a mighty blow from Gal Maraz. If you are interested in more details of this particular battle, you can watch the full episode about the Third Battle of Blackfire Pass in the description below. The history of the Empire is long and tumultuous, but in the years Karl Franz has taken the throne and title of Emperor, the Empire of Man has expanded and flourished greatly. It has rebuilt and grown powerful, but evil still lurks in the depths of the land. Mutant monsters prowl in its dark forests. Malevolent ratmen plot beneath its cities, and the living dead rise from the graveyards. If Karl Franz should fall, the frail bonds that hold the Empire together might break. And without unity, the Empire of Man would not stand for long against the ever-encroaching darkness.
On this channel, we are putting together narrative Total War cinematic battles and Warhammer lore videos. A special thank you goes to our Patreon supporters who help us in the making of more content. You can also directly support the channel through Patreon. Find the link in the description below. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button to be the first to watch the next video. Thank you for watching and see you on the next one.